Hello and welcome to another jungle guide, and in this one I'm going to be taking a look at how the jungle experience buffs that we just had in patch 10.3 will affect different styles of jungling in different situations you might find yourself in. Obviously, Riot have said they will give back half of the experience that they took away from Season 9, which is quite nice, it does feel better. And basically, we can just ask, is jungle saved at this point? But for the meantime, I will go over the 3 different situations you might find yourself in and how the experience buffs can affect the outcome of the game. Obviously, this will take into account when you're behind as a jungler, when you're an AFK farmer, perhaps you want to get level 6, or when you're trying the Season 10 special to spam gank. And of course, we've had videos on all these different styles. And so as always, if you do enjoy the video and like the Season 10 content, please consider liking the video and of course subscribing. But without hesitation, let's jump into our first game, and we will have 3 different games highlighting each of these scenarios for you, and I'll basically skip through the important events and show you exactly how the experience buffs really help out in certain situations. In this first game, we do have an Ekko versus a Nidalee. Now both of these champions can farm pretty quickly. Of course, Ekko's been really strong for a long time. Nidalee is a staple in Master Plus and absolutely loved in Korea for counter jungling, a lot of invades and a lot of pressure. As such, as you can see, Ekko does his red side jungle, but the Nidalee had done the sneaky Kindred, Jarvan kind of trick where you do your red buff and then end up stealing the blue and Gromp. Now when this happened pre-buffs in 10.3, essentially this could spell ruin for the rest of the game. If you couldn't find a way to counter jungle their red side because you didn't have the resources or the lane prio, and you couldn't get a gank off on the top lane, maybe you could get a crab, but you'd in general find yourself really struggling. There was no catch-up experience, you had no camps on the map, no lanes to gank, you'd have to go back too soon, and there was just this negative snowball effect. Now the really nice thing in this situation is when the Nidalee does that, you know she's gonna try and 3-buff you and get control of the bottom crab. She wants lane prio, she wants dragon prio, which means the Krugs will definitely be up. So even though in this situation you see him take the Krugs, he did attempt that cheeky gank on the top lane, and that was a little bit greedy. And it's a really good thing he didn't die, because you don't want to overforce it and put yourself further behind and into the lane. Now the nice thing is, because of the lower spawn timers than Season 9, that Gromp will be up. So the fact you get a gank off on the top lane, you get the fresh buffed experience on the Krugs, you get the second tier Gromp spawn, which is obviously very nice also, and you got a crab. Now what I want to do is fast forward a little bit. So the early invade kind of screwed him, but he was salvaged because of the jungle experience changes. Now in this case, the Nidalee is trying to force plays to get a lead because she really needs it. In turn, tower dives, gets a kill, but the Ekko manages to get cleanup. In addition, he does get a fire drake, but that isn't exactly when he falls behind. I just wanted to point out the fact that even if you get invaded early now, there is the experience in the jungle that you can sort of maintain equal lead and at least control your jungle enough that you can capitalize on bad mistakes by the enemy team, something we talked about in the 5 steps to play from behind. But now, however, the greed comes into play. He doesn't go back to buy, he thinks he's too fresh with his true damage merch and the fact that he's playing Ekko, which is kind of sad. He goes bottom lane for a counter gank on the Nidalee, but you can see they are the same level and she has fresh purchases because, you know, she died and she was forced to. But she turns it around and gets another 2 kills. And this is when the behind thing really happens, because now you've just snowballed the Nidalee, they get tower bottom lane, and then she repeatedly invades, ganks, fights, gets kills, gets objectives. You're seeing highlights of that on your screen now. And Ekko just wasn't in a position whatsoever to combat that, to make his own plays. He just had to watch it unfold. And the good thing is he didn't really go in and int and take bad fights. Yeah, your team might complain your better jungler wins, but he gets a cleanup kill in the mid lane here, you see at least something. But according to the steps of the video we used in this topic, you can see how he farmed, kept control of his jungle, warded as best he could, held waves wherever it was possible, and made sure to keep his experience and farm up at the same time while not fighting and sort of just letting your defense bend but not break. You sort of want to give her a little bit of things here and there. You know you're Ekko, you will one-shot someone. And I want to fast forward to just before the most crucial moment in the game that sort of decided who won. And Nidalee shows us why she can be so annoying when she's ahead, gets another notch on her belt in the bottom lane. But look at the levels. She's level 10, Ekko just hits level 10 himself. The experience buffs allowed him to control his jungle. There's no catch-up experience, but the holding of lanes, the fact that he could camp sequence safely, he had good vision around those areas. It means he was able to maintain somewhat experience parity to the enemy jungler who was very fed. She's only up a little bit in CS, and that's exactly what we wanted. It sucked in this situation when the Nidalee ended up, swooping away with the game. You'd be down 2 levels because there's just nothing left in the jungle. Essentially, the gap between the snowballing jungler and the jungler who couldn't do anything is halved to what it was before the patch. And you can see the implications of this on the teamfights. Nidalee's on the bottom lane, Ekko gets a kill on the Sona. We fast forward again, Nidalee's level 12, Ekko's level 11, and let me just freeze the frame because the importance of having level 11 here instead of level 10 is absolutely game changing. Doesn't matter what jungler you are, but having that second point in your ultimate, unless you're Udyr because you're not a champion, is absolutely crucial in this particular fight because you do scale, you have the Sona, you have the Ornn, you are Ekko. All you have to do is be given a shot in hell to be able to win this fight, which they do. They chase on down. Unfortunately, the glorious champion that is Ezreal is able to get a quadra kill and ace them, but now the game is at least somewhat equal. Ekko wasn't thrown into the trash can, which he should be as a jungler, and completely reduced to ash by the experience. He was allowed to at least play the game, and then he could help his team make plays. So even though he got invaded, even though she ended up getting a lot of ganks and a lot of prio and basically just snowballing with kills, he was able to maintain somewhat level experience gaps, and that meant he could help his team actually win the game. And in the end, they did. You can see the final KDAs. They just ended up winning a lot of fights and playing better macro. Thank you very much, jungle buffs. Now, let's jump forward to a Khazix vs Panteon game. In this one, I want to take a look at what if you're still focusing on ganking and winning fights over that objective AFK farming style we talked about in our most recent video. At the same time, camp sequencing is still very important, so I think it's pretty obvious that if you're still ganking as much, when you fall back to those camps, what camps do you fall back to, and how does the jungle experience help you? Now, I know we don't see a lot of Pantheon jungle, you see it more in the higher MMR, but nonetheless, I want to see how exactly a Khazix is going to play around this, given he's sort of a hybrid. You can gank very well early, you do want to prioritize getting 6 in your evolve, but you are very much not an Evelynn, that's abundantly clear, I mean look at him, and you're definitely not a Shyvana or a Kayn. So you've seen both junglers do a cute little rendition of Season 9 clears, a nice red buff side, get level 3. A more AFK farming jungler would actually focus on your camp sequencing, but in this case, you are still looking to gank, you are still looking to have lane impact. So when your top laner dies, go kill Set, get yourself a nice little kill. Go back to base, furbish your inventory with some sexy items, and Pantheon, who was on the top side area given he did red side clear as well, will actually end up punishing the Gnar himself while he TPs back in, and you'll see that on screen. But I want to focus on the Khazix, because you just did 3 camps and got a gank off, now what? A lot of junglers like Elise and Lee Sin in this manner, and in the video I showed about it, will go straight to bottom lane and gank, will go straight to mid lane and gank. They'd look to counter jungle, they don't care about their camps. But with that impact in your jungle experience, you don't want to leave your camps for too long because they, they kind of are worth something. If you spam gank and leave them up on the map now and things don't work out very well, and you get counter jungled and you don't farm whatsoever, you're actually going to find yourself a little bit behind and perhaps being punished. And not in a BDSM way, you're not going to enjoy this. And that's the reason he did his blue and Gromp as well as focusing on his Krugs. The Krugs and Gromp are worth a lot of experience, so if you can get those on a good loop of spawning while you're ganking, you're going to maximize your lane impact while maximizing your level advantages. Now, because he would have tracked the Pantheon, known he was top lane, he goes for a sneaky drive down the mid, perhaps a bit of counter jungling, but he does see the fact that his bottom lane is crashing into the tower. This is why Elise and Lee Sin are so good in this meta. When your bottom lane is winning, you can make them win, well, even more. And if your bot lane is inting and being pushed in, like I guess 90% of our games, at least you have a kit that's very strong at level 3-4, you can go and impact that lane. In this case, it's nice the Aurelion Soul came along for the ride. Another kill and another assist. Level 5 already. Don't go back and do your wolves. Go back to base. Buy more longswords. Stack them. Make a necklace. Enjoy the free AD. But what does he do? Doesn't go to Raptors. He ignored the wolves. He goes straight to the Krugs. Yeah, it takes him a bit longer than other junglers, but it's not really an issue once you have a bit of damage and of course W. He goes to the top lane, gets another gank off, hits level 6, sheds his skin like the beautiful moth bug thing he is, because you can see the intention. Not Q evolve for 1v1 combat, not from farming, not for objective control. This Khazix wants the added procs of invisibility, wants the added procs of his passive in order to maximize that map impact. Now, once you've done the Krugs in the top lane gank, take your red buff. Look at the Raptors, who are kind of sad, but at the same time they get to live now, unlike the chicken industry in North America, and then he goes all the way down to the bottom side. Sees there's a bottom lane fight going on, Pantheon has ulted into the battle. He just simply uses the plan to hop over, makes his presence known, and secures a 3rd and 4th kill. A nice counter gank, he ignored all his camps, he went straight on down, reacted directly, he had the evolved R for that, and as a byproduct could get the dragon. So it's a different approach as to our next example, which we'll see exactly what the Shyvana does. But in this situation, his sideline impact and focus of those camps on the edges has given him the same experience as the Pantheon, who's focused more on clearing camps and holding waves. Again, after that, he doesn't stick around to do Grump and Wolves, he goes straight back to base. And you might think the thunderous thighs of Pantheon are having a luxurious game 2-on-1, the same level as the Khazix. He's trying his best, what can he do? The fact that these ganks and the way the Khazix has played has worked so well for him, it does help you as a roaming mid laner, means that it is really still the best way to play the game. Unless the Pantheon happened to be an Ekko or a Rengar or something that could really dominate come level 16. the Pantheon isn't going to have that same impact, and Khazix does scale well. Hence, I suppose the limitations of the pick. But look at this again. Moby boots, R evolve, ignores all camps, sees a wandering bottom lane, straight over there. R's from the bush, R's the hook from the thresh, very nice. Auto attack passive, and down goes the Veigar. 5-0-2, camps ignored except for 2 tiers of Krugs and Gromp, objective controlled, and the game is very much in his control. And when I said he was ignoring his farm just to look for fights, just to counter jungle, and just to gank, I really meant it. Look at this, he's only doing his blue buff, he gets another kill on the mid lane. He's patiently waiting and wondering and looking for fights to take on the bottom side. He just wants to kill and he wants to do it as much as possible. The Pantheon, on the other hand, is having a much more well-rounded jungle approach. The thing is, Khazix is just now so far ahead, it's very difficult. In fact, he feels bad about the Pantheon and gave him that freebie tower dive kill. But you can see 5-291 CS is nothing to scoff at. It's simply just the snowball effect of having lanes that are really far ahead and a jungler who's got a lot of kills. After he revives from this death, you can see he does his red, he does his raptors, but again down to the bottom lane. You're gonna see highlights from the rest of the game. Essentially, he did continue to ignore farm as much as possible, but eventually started falling back to it because the Pantheon did end up having an experience lead because he was picking up all those camps, farming well, and just delaying this sort of push from the enemy team as long as he could. The Pantheon really did jungle well, but the Khazix had objective control, got his lanes a super big lead, and he himself scales very well. He itemized correctly, got heralds, and they were able to get the dragons and simply win the game. And in conclusion, you can see that because he ganked so much and had objective control, the fact that he did pick up those edge camps and those camps when he did meant his experience level really wasn't that far behind that of his laners. In the previous patch, with the amount he ignored his camps, he would have been absolutely screwed in a top lane versus jungle 1v1. In the Pantheon's case, he wouldn't have been able to have a lead over the Khazix because the farming of the camps would have meant literally nothing. But to segue on the note from farming, let's take a good look at a farming jungler and how the experience buffed have really helped the Shyvanas, the Kanes, the Evelyns of the world, and of course as extension helped the Warwicks and the Rengars also. I'm very happy about that. Now the thing about farming junglers, especially ones who want level 6 before they do anything, or ones that kind of just want to farm and then split push, it's not very exciting gameplay to narrate, so I will highlight the most important things. If you would like a more in-depth focus on the clear I'm going to show you, which you're currently watching at the moment, then please let me know in the comments. We can of course do a separate video on that Evelyn kind of style. But as you can see, she started Raptors, then she goes to Krug. She had a leash from her lane Kane. They are duo partners here on EU West and Challenger. Now after doing Raptors Krugs, you see do red, straight to the blue, and then because of the shorter timers, you have a full clear from Gromp to Wolves to Raptors to Krugs, and the possibility for securing at least one crab. In this case, you're against a ganking jungler. Pay attention to where he starts, pay attention to where he ganks. That will dictate which crab you want to go for. The whole goal though is that you're level 5 before 5 minutes. You're not too concerned what the enemy jungler is doing. You want to control your camps and sequence them beautifully. Just remember the Jarvan has a kill and assist. Your laner, because of those impacts, is going to be behind a level or two. So when you go back to your Gromp and Wolves, you cannot possibly expect to 1v1 the enemy jungler. It's just not going to work out. You will have to give up dragons, you will have to give up river control, and you will have to accept that your laners aren't going to be happy with you. The goal though is to maximize experience, farm, and stacking such that your form, whatever it is, Kayn, Evelyn, Shyvana finally being able to actually turn into a dragon, you simply want it as soon as possible. To that end, you're looking for very good camp sequencing. Because she was forced to go back, her Raptors and Krugs are up, her Wolves and Gromp will be up, her blue and red are gonna be up. Simply do your red side, hold the mid lane, and my suggestion here would simply be to do the top side camps and then maybe scout for the Herald. Don't go face check and use your ultimate. The LeBlanc's ahead, it's an enemy Kiana, you're not going to win that fight, and honestly, it just isn't worth the pain and the stifling of your own experience advantage. Because of that play, the Jarvan is still ahead. Remember, if you're gonna gank and get dragons and heralds as the other jungler, he will be ahead. The thing is, with the previous patch, the Shyvana simply even wouldn't be level 7 to contest that. They wouldn't be in a position to ult and try and fight for the herald. Even after the respawn on the Jarvan greeds, they kill him, she gets level 8, that wouldn't have happened before the buffs. This has given farming junglers a really nice, easier early game, such that even if their lanes are behind, the fact that they can farm well and control whatever objectives that might be possible, like the Pantheon in the previous example, they can actually still be relevant in the game. And in my opinion, that makes sense. You don't want the enemy jungler who's AFK farming to come on ahead of you when you've been trying to actually make plays. The evidence of this can be seen in that the Shyvana keeps doing the camp sequencing, but that gets faster and faster. Her ult's up, you can use the AP to stop tower dives, get some kills. You can actually zone off and get a dragon. When your team doesn't seem to know how to fight and you can go push waves by yourself, do so. If the enemy top lane Kiana shows up at the same level as you, look at that, the same level, explode her and delete her from the game. Make the player never play it again, because honestly, the less I see that champion, the happier I am. It is an absolute abomination and shouldn't exist. But you know I have the LV skin for it, of course. And if you're saying, well, Virkayu, that doesn't prove it works. Okay, fine. Yeah, she's 2 levels up now. That's not what wait, she's 2 levels up? Look at that. That wasn't a thing before this patch. Now it is. You could do it, but the enemy jungler had to be really bad. The Jarvan became desperate, started to force plays, and the Shyvana simply kept farming and kept trying to make impact. Collapse on him in the top lane, win a fight, get some more kills, get the Herald, win another fight in the mid lane, and hard push to win. If you are a farming jungler, your ultimate is very important, your scaling is usually very good, and objective control is something you have to give up early but can really snatch away later. And that's the whole point of the playstyle. As such, the experience buffs have only helped farming junglers, and the video I did on it is absolutely viable and should have great success in the current meta. Just be aware that experience buffs for you are also experience buffs for Lee Sins and Elises. Yes, they suck, yes, I hate that playstyle also, the laners don't like it, but if they get away with it, yes, you still might be able to carry, but it might be too late for you to have any impact, so just consider that around your matchup and your choices in Champion Select. I hope you were able to enjoy and learn something from this video. Please do like, share, and comment if you did, and do enjoy reaching that spicy 1000 like mark. It simply makes my beard feel more beardly. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.